Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today on USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And for all of our entrepreneurs out there, 2024 is your year as we help you sell your vision. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is the United Kingdom News and Culture, episode 103. And there's so much going on in the United Kingdom. We are really grateful and truly blessed to have our expert correspondents here. They have decades of experience between the two of them, reporting and covering on all types of things, including the royal family for HELENA CHARD and Simon MacDonald. He has been covering everything to do with the fishery industry as well as much more. So let's bring them out and find out a little bit more about them, and then we'll go into the crux of our show today. Also, DIANN FLOYD BOEHM has the day off, so we miss her and we look forward to seeing her again. HELENA CHARD, come on out. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. So lovely to see you as always. Thank you so much. Always so great joining you on your platform. And, you know, great as well that you're inspiring people to push themselves forward. We're in a time at the moment where we want all entrepreneurs to really push themselves forward. And we would love new businesses to bloom. And what better platform to do that on and to be promoted than yours. So I'm really, really happy. And you've got so much to offer. And if there are, there's something that I've done over the years is help people to move their vision forward. And we want everyone to really bloom in that situation. So it's really great to hear.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And you're blooming there in your Sleepy Hollow. I love the background.
Oh, thank you so much. Love Sleepy Hollow. Love trees. I always hug trees. I hugged trees from about the age of 4.
Well, they say hugging trees is it's very good for the soul. So you look like you've hugged trees and it's done well for you. So congratulations. Done you well, I should say. Yay! Let's welcome our other expert. Let's welcome our other expert correspondent, Mr. Simon MacDonald, who's joining us from Scotland. Hello, welcome.
Hello, it's just so nice to be back. I so much look forward to a Wednesday afternoon to this show. It, from the chaos and mayhem of my weekly schedules and so on, which are getting crazier and crazier by the day. This is just brings me down to earth. It's lovely, and I love the background there. I mean, I recognise Ellendon Castle, and then the busy streets in Edinburgh and so on. Really feel at home. This is it. This is the Scottish edition.
Well, I'm glad that you like it. It's funny because we were on.
How about my Sleepy Hollow?
Oh, I love the Sleepy Hollow. Yes. It's not a Scottish woodland, but it looks pretty damn good to me.
We had a show, I think it was Tuesday with Roland Friedel, and the show is called The Mallorca Connection, and he lived on the island of Mallorca for 14 years, and Mallorca was in the background, and we went through almost the whole show, and he said, "Is that Mallorca in the background?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." He goes, "I was there, and I was there." It was really kind of funny. So I love the fact that you see those things. That's wonderful. So there's been a lot going on in the news, especially about the royal family, especially especially with health concerns. And I know, Helena, you're going to be talking to us a little bit about that. And Simon, you have a special that you're going to be bringing to our audience as well. So I'm super excited for this particular episode. And I'd love to get started. For people who are joining us for the first time, tell us a little bit about your start as a broadcast journalist or in the industry of broadcasting. We'll start with Helena.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. So, yes, thank you. So I'm a broadcast journalist. I always try and pinpoint when this part of my career started. I say that because I guess I am a creative, and I really began in the casting world and photography world at St. Martin's, and then moved into specialising in the royal family and covering the royal family, which I absolutely love and support. And I do take royal photos, and they're used for various things. And the best thing I think now is to be able to have my platform and join you, Jacalyn, and different platforms around the world, just to give insights in what's happening on a day-to-day basis within the royal family. And it's really to promote the royal family that do so much good in our world, and that continuity and everything. We have a little blip at the moment, but it will move on. And so it's so great to share my knowledge. And there's lots more, but I think as a basis, that's good to start with.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Simon, how about you? How and when did you get your start?
Oh, I started off cooking on television on popular morning and magazine shows in the UK, and it sort of spread from there. And then I got work with French television, and then with Sky Television. I did a 6-part cookery series in Portugal. That was great fun. It was tremendous. It was 6 parts, but it took quite a long time to film it. It took me a long time to recover from it as well, but it was great fun. And then, of course, along comes USA Global TV, and this is just the most magical program to be on. I just absolutely love it. I said earlier, it makes my week to be here. I thoroughly enjoy it, and it gives me a chance to look at other areas as well, and and look at different different things going on in life. Not just in Scotland, but I've done pieces on the White House and the Pentagon and so on. So yeah, it's an absolute joy to be here. So I've had a busy television and radio career as well. Although I have several careers, I think I've got so many hats that I really need to have a milliner's shop beside me all the time as well. But it's great fun.
Thank you. I love that analogy. And I love the fact that we can be here together on this platform, even though we're in different countries. And yet at the crux, at the heart of it, we all have a common mission, which is to provide education, to help people, to inspire people. So thank you again to both of you for being here week after week when you could be anywhere else. I truly do appreciate you.
I couldn't be anywhere else.
Well.
I have to be
here.
Fantastic. Okay, let's get into the program. We're going to go over to Helena. I know you have some updates for us, and then we'll move on to Simon.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. So, I'm going to be talking about a few new things, but I think things that have been going on over the last week as well. And there's been a lot of interest from every platform internationally. I think people are slightly concerned, but no need to be concerned. But as we mentioned behind the scenes earlier, expect the unexpected. And if you always have that as a seed in your mind, you'll always be able to work around anything. So after a transitional year, stepping into their new role in 2023, the royal family have, all of a sudden, there seem to be various things coming out, various surgeries involving sort of top senior royals. And obviously they have their bold plans for 2024. And I think people have been really, really concerned about things, and I understand that. And I think it was quite a shock, I think, for everybody involved when certain things were put out. So we have the Princess of Wales, and she at the moment is actually doing her paperwork and researching into her early years, which is where her passion lies, in hospital. She has had an abdominal surgery. She's recovering. She's recuperating. She will then be going home for a while to recuperate and get well. And we have Charles, as we know, with an enlarged prostate. He's about to have surgery. It's pretty non-invasive, slightly invasive, but not that invasive. So no one's having to cover for him really, because it's going to be that he's going to be on bed rest for a little while, but not for too long. So although it's raised lots of questions. Obviously, with the Princess of Wales, she's really the jewel, I think, of the royal family, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, she's going to be out of service for a few months. But it is planned surgery. It is planned time. It is a good time for this surgery to take place because it's the beginning of the year. We haven't got too much going on. Moving forward, there are many big things that are going on, whether it be trooping of the colour, etc. But the good thing about her is she has spoken about how sorry she is that certain charities that she supports have been expecting her to turn up. She obviously can't because she's on bed rest, but she will make that up. And I think further down the line, there are certain things that she's doing. I know that she's Colonel of the Irish Guards, and normally on St. Patrick's Day, she presents shamrocks, things like that. Obviously, she won't be there on that occasion. But we have lots of our lovely royal family that are standing in. It's not absolutely necessary to have someone to stand in for King Charles, because he's not going to be off for as long as the Princess of Wales. But Queen Camilla, I mean, she's been racing around. She's been sterling, fabulous and strong as usual. But one thing I would say, which is quite funny, is she has been spotted wearing mismatching earrings. But do you know what? I don't know how long we've got, but do we just have the little video, Dr. Jacalyn, at all? Do we have that we can just show, which just sort of gives a little update in writing as well of what's happening with the Princess of Wales and the whole family? If we don't have, it's absolutely fine. That just gives a little bit of an insight into the Princess of Wales and what's happening, and her wish for, obviously, to respect her privacy, and I think really for her children as well. She doesn't want it to be knee-jerk, etc. And I think if people remember back to a situation in Australia, I think there was there were two broadcast journalists who pretended to be members of the royal family, and they rang up and tried to get information out of the where the royal was having surgery, etc., or being looked after, and it ended up in a travesty, someone taking their life and things. So I think it's been dealt with very well, and the Princess of Wales will be back on her feet, but that will be after Easter, so it's a little bit of a while. But she is there working away, and there are so many wonderful royals, including her husband, obviously the Prince of Wales, who is taking a little bit of time out, which I really admire him for, because family is first for him, and so it should be. I feel thrilled that that's the case. So he's doing the school run, and picking up the fort and obviously visiting the Princess of Wales and making sure she's okay. She will be back at their home soon for a few months. But as I started prior saying about Camilla, Queen Camilla, who is holding the fort as well, and she's been to some wonderful charity events. I know that she was at a domestic violence service, and they were celebrating 50 years. She was at a jeweler's who'd actually been running for 175 years. And the funny thing is, she was actually spotted. Now, I wonder whether this is a bit of a sort of media PR-y stunt. I don't know. I tried to get some information from the inner circle, as I say, but she was spotted wearing mismatching earrings. Now, do we think that she was being on trend with the mismatching earrings, or do we think that maybe she made a little bit of an error because obviously she's a little bit flummoxed? We'd give her that grace. So one of her ears, she was wearing a traditional clip-on pearls, which we remember on her wedding day that she wore. And on the other ear, she was wearing quite a bright jeweled, quite gaudy earring. So it was a very different. And it's interesting how, if you think about if you're a supermodel or some kind of Hollywood, I don't know, Gwyneth Paltrow or Kate Moss, whatever, everyone will think, wow, it's amazing to wear these different earrings. But with Camilla, I think the first thought was, oh my goodness, she doesn't realize that she stepped out with these different earrings on. We have a photograph, in fact, that may highlight it. Do we have the picture? There we go. There we are. Queen Camilla. There she is, smiling away, doing such a good job. But it actually highlights, you can see the two little pictures in the middle, how one ear is pretty, her standard pearl earring that she normally wears is there, but the other one is quite a gaudy, it almost looks like costume jewelry. I have to say, pardon me if I'm wrong. You've got the jewels and the bright gold. So I find that funny. Really, really funny. Not just Camilla, but there's everyone else standing in. I know the Duke of Edinburgh at the moment is he's in between in his 4-day working visit. He's been in South Africa, I think, for 2 days, but he's in one of the most remotest islands in a British overseas territory. So this is in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean, and it's called St. Helena. So that's why I'm very excited. That's where he is. And there is a very famous inhabitant of this area. And I'm sure everybody would like to see this 190-year-old inhabitant called Jonathan. Oh, okay, there he is. I mean, isn't that amazing? 191 years old. That's Jonathan. And that Jonathan has met many members of the royal family, including George VI, who is obviously I'd say that I always associate everything with Elizabeth II. So the late Elizabeth II's father. So he's met Queen Elizabeth, Princess Margaret, Elizabeth's sister, the Queen Mother. Amazing. What must it feel to be 191 years old? I think that's incredible. But anyway, so he's there, and the governor Nigel Phillips was honoured to receive him, and the whole thing. There's also a sort of bank holiday for all the people there, and it's all to do with celebrating all that's great about the culture and the whole island. So fabulous. Thank you to the Duke of Edinburgh. So everyone's getting on with things, which is admirable. There is thoughts of, oh my goodness, what's happening, and what's going to happen. Everyone's going to be on their knees. But obviously, just to remember, this surgery is planned. Everything's been planned, and it's the best time. Remembering Fergie as well, my thoughts go out to her in that within 6 months of obviously going through reconstructive surgery, breast cancer, she has been diagnosed with malignant melanoma, which is an aggressive skin cancer. But thank goodness her surgeon very quickly noticed moles and took samples. Hopefully things will be good for her. She has said that she has felt very worried that her cancer had come back, felt that it had spread, but she was so thankful for the love and care from everyone, including her surgeon and everyone, Charles, Camilla, King Charles, Queen Camilla, and her children, everyone's out there for her. Yes, absolutely, really rooting for her. I that her father passed of that condition, so she must be very worried. She is such fun, isn't she? So we want things to go well. Something fun that I wanted to speak about as well, and I think it's poignant really now because we're in a very it's a precarious situation, I think, not wanting to bring up things which are negative, but we've got cost of living, there's unhappiness with war around us, etc. And I wanted to speak about the intelligence service. Now we know that the royal family do so much good for us, but thinking about safety and things like that, protecting the state. So Charles is the patron of the intelligence department service, and he hands out awards for the spies that do well for us. And it's called like the Spies Oscars. And it thrilled me in a way because one, goodness me, I am so thankful to have MI5, MI6. MI5 is like working within the UK, but MI6 is outside. So international operations such as Russia, China, Iran, which is very now. So he gives out awards to these spies, and they're very thankful as well because obviously no one can speak about what they do, and these are really dangerous missions that all really to protect our lives and the state. Risking their lives is amazing. So I just think it's great. I wish in a way I could be a spy, sort of looking in on it. But I think that's going to be passed on to Prince William, our future King of England. So that's a fun one. And moving on with Prince William, another thing that everyone is talking about is the speculation that Prince William will sort of cut ties with the Church of England. Now, this is bad because Prince William he's sort of like quite a Nordic, if you understand that. He likes things in life. He loves his family. His family's first. Of course, he's there working for the monarchy, and he's passionate about that. But there are other things he's not absolutely committed to the church. Unlike the late Queen Elizabeth II or his father, who have incredibly strong faith. So everyone's saying, "Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Is this going to go wrong?" But that's not the case at all. It just, obviously, the reigning monarch has the title of the supreme governor of the Church of England, and Prince William has no thought in his head that he would change that. It's the sovereign's unique role within the Anglican faith, and upon his accession, that will continue. So I just wanted to put his mind at rest. And moving on from royals, it's good fun things. And I think thinking about looking at the big tortoise, as I say, I would like to speak about, I don't live that far from London Zoo in Regent's Park, and I spoke the other day about totting up all the animals and making sure everyone's well, etc. But obviously London Zoo, a lot of it is about keeping animals safe and breeding programs, and especially for endangered animals. And I'm absolutely thrilled and so happy to share that Majuku, who is a fabulous gorilla at London Zoo, has given birth to a baby gorilla. I'm actually not too sure of his sex at the moment, or his name. Now, it's a critically endangered Western Leyland gorilla, and she, as in Majuku, it was a 17-minute labour. Wow, which is wow. I feel like celebrating there. But it's a sort of precious addition to this breeding program. I'd love to show the photograph if we have that, Dr. Jacalyn. I just think it's so beautiful. Look at that. I mean, goodness me, when I look at that face, you sort of can see human, can't you, in there? But that love, there's also a video, but not that I've got that to show, but it's so beautiful. Isn't that lovely? And that's London Zoo, that's not too far away. So I look forward to visiting. And I'm going to end on, I'm going to talk about, this is something which at the moment this year for 2024, I'm really wanting to get involved with. So it's to do with natural, I don't know, yoga. I mean, there's so many different things that we can do to make ourselves feel well, to give us strength, and a number of things. But the idea of being able to go to wonderful buildings in London and all over the place where you can actually see art, see the beautiful buildings, as well as enjoy yoga, gongs, and various things. So at the moment, the Natural History Museum, beautiful, has got a yoga program where you can actually lie under the big blue whale. So it's obviously a beautiful big building, and you look above you and you've got this big skeleton of the big blue whale, but you have yoga that takes place and a live gong bath. Now, it's something that I've been told by friends is absolutely beautiful. It's really feel good. It's very good for your well-being. It makes you feel calm and happy. And you can pay for this. There's a few dates. So if anyone wanted to go along, I would say look it up. There's a few dates that begin on the 28th of January, so very soon. And you can also have exclusive access to the museum's galleries. So it's closed to the public. So it's that sort of like secret sort of wandering around and looking at what's going on. And access to the wildlife photography exhibition, which is superb. If you were to like pay for these individually, it would tot up. But to be able to do everything in just one day is super. And we have a little bit of an idea of what it will feel like and look like. We have one image that hopefully we can show. Look at that. Can you see that's a big blue whale above? But look at all the people there. I mean, it's an awful lot of people actually. But you can see the gong as well, which is more in the foreground. And isn't it beautiful to be able to go to these wonderful venues and to be able to do other things in the venues as well? I just think there's so much going on in Great Britain. And I really hope that everyone will race and try and take part because there's lots to see and do. Thank you very much.
Well done. Lots of great information there, and I love the initial video and the beautiful photographs you shared. And we do have a comment, by the way, from someone we all know and love, Mr. Ian Pelham Turner. As always, great news about the royal family from Helena CHARD. I have just learned this afternoon she's winning a major TV award as a royal. Woo! Congratulations, Helena.
Thank you for the reminder. Oh my goodness, we have. Oh goodness me, yes, I have. And I also know that Ian has as well. He spoke to him very briefly before I was on air, and it was yes. So this is to do with our show. The Royally Rich Lifestyle Show, which is doing incredibly well. And thank you, Jacalyn, as well, for your platform putting it out. And we are winning an Influencer Award, which I need to find out a little bit more about it. It's going to be a big, glitzy ordeal, and I'm very excited. It's always good to win things, isn't it? It's always good to. I think it's not even so much about the award. It's just you know that you're on the right track. And it's lovely to think that everyone can be on the journey with us or with myself. So I'm really happy. So happy. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, and thank you to Ian for sharing that with us. And you two certainly have a long-standing partnership in delivering together as a team, as broadcast journalists. And I think that's fantastic.
Indeed. Congratulations to you both. Couldn't have happened to a nicer couple.
Thank you.
And the Royally Rich Lifestyle Show will be shown here on our platform at 1 p.m. today, which is 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. All right. Thank you, Helena. Simon, we're going over to you now.
Well, there we are. So, yes, I mean, as I say, once again, congratulations, Helena. I mean, it really is justly deserved for for all the efforts and so on which you've done, and of course Ian as well. Stars, absolute stars. Anyway, on with the show. This week, I'm bringing you something which is a little bit different, a little bit off the wall. It's plotting, it's murder, it's mayhem, it's adultery, it's imprisonment, it's Mary Queen of Scots. And what a story that Mary Queen of Scots had got to tell from her past as well. So Mary, she was born on the 8th of December in 1542 at Linlithgow Palace in Scotland to King James V and his French second wife, Mary of Guise, on the 14th of December. 6 days after her birth, she became the Queen of Scotland when her father died. So a queen at 6 days, I mean, that's takes some doing. So she was christened at the church of St. Michael, and rumours spread that she was very weak and frail as she'd been born premature. But an English diplomat, Ralph Sadler, saw the infant at the Lithgow Palace and wrapped by her nurse, Jean Sinclair, and wrote, "It's as goodly a child as I've ever seen of her age, and as like to live." So Mary, she was an infant when she inherited the throne of Scotland, but that was ruled then in her place by regents, which included her mother, Mary of Guise, until she became an adult. So Henry VIII, King Henry VIII of England, of course famous for the number of wives that he had, took the opportunity of regency to propose marriage between Mary and his own son and heir, Edward. And he was hoping for a union of Scotland and England. So on the 1st of July 1543, when Mary was 6 months old, the Treaty of Greenwich was signed, which promised that at the age of 10, Mary would marry Edward and move to England, where Henry could oversee her upbringing. So shortly before Mary's coronation on the 9th of September 1543, Henry arrested Scottish merchants headed for France and impounded their goods. Their arrests caused anger in Scotland, needless to say, and the Treaty of Greenwich was rejected by the Parliament of Scotland. So 9 months after the death of Henry VIII, the Scots suffered a heavy defeat at the Battle of Pinkie. Mary's guardians, fearful for her safety, sent her to Inchmahome Priory, which is on the Lake of Menteith, for 3 weeks, and turned to the French for help. Well, King Henry II of France proposed to unite France and Scotland by marrying the young queen to his 3-year-old son, the Dauphin Francis, and on the promise of French military help. So the marriage was agreed to. But in June, much-awaited French help arrived at Leith to besiege and take the village of Haddington, which had previously fallen into English hands. Then on 7th of July 1548, a Scottish Parliament held at the nunnery near the town agreed to the French marriage treaty. So 5-year-old Mary was sent to France to spend the next 13 years at the French court, and the French fleet sent by Henry II sailed with Mary from Dumbarton Castle on the Clyde, on the west of Scotland, on the 7th of August 1548, and arrived about a week later at Saint-Paul-de-Léon in Brittany in France. So Mary, she was accompanied by her own court, which was including 2 illegitimate half-brothers, and the 4 Marys, which were 4 girls, all of her own age, and all called Mary, who were the daughters of some of the noblest families in Scotland. Quite an entourage. Very confusing with the names as well, of course. At the French court, she was a favourite with everyone except Henry II's wife, Catherine de Medici. And Mary learned to play the lute. She was competent in prose, poetry, horsemanship, falconry, and needlework. And she was taught French, Italian, Latin, Spanish, and Greek in addition to her native Scots. Clever girl. Her future sister-in-law, Elizabeth of Valois, became a close friend of whom Mary retained nostalgic memories in later life. Mary's maternal grandmother, Antoinette de Bourbon, was another strong influence on her childhood and was one of her principal advisors. So she was considered a pretty child and later as a woman strikingly attractive. Mary, she was eloquent and especially tall by 16th century standards, attaining an adult height of 5 feet 11 inches, while Henry II's son and heir, Francis, by comparison, stuttered and was unusually short. Henry commented, "From the very first day they met, my son and she got on well together, as if they'd known each other for a long time." Yeah, right. On the 4th of April 1558, Mary signed a secret agreement bequeathing Scotland and her claim to England to the French crown if she died uncontested. 20 days later, she married the Dauphin at Notre Dame in Paris and became King Consort of Scotland. He became rather King Consort of Scotland. So in November 1558, Henry VIII was succeeded by Queen Elizabeth I. And in the eyes of many Catholics, Elizabeth was illegitimate and Mary Stuart was the rightful Queen of England as the senior surviving legitimate descendant of Henry VII through her grandmother, Margaret Tudor. Henry II of France proclaimed his eldest son and daughter-in-law King and Queen of England. So in France, the royal arms of England were quartered with those of Francis and Mary's claim to the English throne became a perennial sticking point between her and Queen Elizabeth. So when Henry II died on the 10th of July, 1559, from injuries sustained in a joust, then 15-year-old Francis and 16-year-old Mary became the King and Queen of France. King Francis II, well, he died on December in 1560 of a middle ear infection, which led to an abscess in his brain. God, that must have hurt. Mary's mother-in-law, Catherine de Medici, became the regent for the late king's 10-year-old brother, who was Charles IX, who inherited the French throne. Mary returned to Scotland 9 months later, arriving in Leith on the 19th of August, 1561. Having lived in France since the age of 5, Mary had little direct experience of the dangerous and complex political situation in Scotland, so nothing changes there. As a devout Catholic, she was regarded with suspicion by many of her subjects, as well as by the Queen of England. And Scotland was torn between Catholic and Protestant factions. So, to the surprise and dismay of the Catholic Church, Mary tolerated the newly established Protestant ascendancy. This suggested really that Mary's failure to appoint a council sympathetic to Catholic and French interests was an indication of her focus on the English throne over the internal problems of Scotland. Now, Mary sent William Maitland of Lethington as an ambassador to the English court to put the case for Mary as the heir presumptive to the English throne. Elizabeth refused to name a potential heir. However, she did assure Maitland that she knew no one with a better claim than Mary. Mary then turned her attention to find a new husband from the royalty of Europe. Elizabeth attempted to neutralize Mary by suggesting that she marry English Protestant Robert Dudley, who was the first Earl of Leicester. Dudley was the English Queen's own favourite, of course, who Elizabeth trusted and thought she could control. So she sent an ambassador, Thomas Randolph, to tell Mary that if she married an English nobleman, then Elizabeth would proceed to the inquisition of her right and title to be her next cousin and heir. The proposal came to nothing, not least because the intended bridegroom was actually unwilling anyway. So in contrast, a French poet at Mary's court, Pierre de Bosquecel, the Chastelarde, was apparently besotted with Mary, and in early 1563 he was actually discovered during a security search hidden under her bed, apparently planning to surprise her when she was alone, and declared his love for her. Well, Mary was horrified and banished him from Scotland. He ignored this edict, and 2 days later he forced his way into her chamber as she was about to disrobe. And she reacted with fury and fear, naturally. When the Earl of Moray rushed into the room after hearing her cries for help, she shouted, "Thrust your dagger into the villain." Moray refused, as Chastelarde was already under restraint. So after that, Chastelarde, well, he was tried for treason and beheaded. So that was the end of that one. Now, Mary had briefly met her half-cousin Henry Stuart, who was Lord Darnley, in February 1561, when she was in mourning for Francis. Both Mary and Darnley were grandchildren of Margaret Tudor, who was the sister of Henry VIII of England, and descendants of the High Stewards of Scotland. They next met on Saturday the 17th of February in 1565 at Wemyss Castle in Scotland. Mary fell in love with the long lad, as Queen Elizabeth called him, since he was over 6 feet tall. So they married at Holyrood Palace on the 29th of July, 1565, even though both were Catholic and a papal dispensation for the marriage of the first cousins had not actually been obtained. Elizabeth felt threatened by the marriage because descendants of her aunt, both Mary and Darnley were claimants to the English throne, and their children would inherit an even stronger combined claim. So the union infuriated Elizabeth, who felt the marriage should not have gone ahead without her permission, as Darnley was both her cousin and an English subject. So Mary's marriage to the leading Catholic precipitated Mary's half-brother, the Earl of Murray, to join with other Protestant lords in open rebellion. Now, Mary set out from Edinburgh on the 26th of August, 1565, to confront them, and on the 30th, Murray entered Edinburgh, but left soon after, having failed to take the castle. Mary returned to Edinburgh the following month to raise more troops in what's become known as the Chaseabout Raid. Mary with her forces and Murray with his rebellious lords roamed around Scotland without ever engaging in direct combat. So that was a waste of time. So before long, Darnley grew very arrogant, and not content with his position as king consort, he demanded the crown matrimonial, which would have made him co-sovereign of Scotland, with the right to keep the Scottish throne for himself if he outlived his wife. Well, Mary refused his request, and their marriage grew a bit strained, and although they conceived by October 1565, he was jealous of her friendship with her private secretary, David Rizzio, who was rumoured to be the father of her child. So on the 9th of March, a group of conspirators, accompanied by Darnley, stabbed Rizzio to death in front of the pregnant Mary at a dinner party in Holyrood Palace. And on the night of the 11th and 12th of March, then Darnley and Mary, they escaped from the palace and took to their heels. So they took temporary refuge in Dunbar Castle before returning to Edinburgh on the 18th of March. Mary's son James was born on the 19th of June, 1566, in Edinburgh Castle, which I'd mentioned in a previous show. However, the murder of Rizzio led to the breakdown of her marriage totally. And in October 1566, while staying at Jedburgh and the Scottish borders, Mary made a journey on horseback of at least 4 hours each way to visit the Earl of Bothwell at Hermitage Castle, where he lay ill from wounds sustained in a skirmish with the border reivers. The ride was actually used as evidence by Mary's enemies that the two were lovers. So at Craigmillar Castle near Edinburgh, at the end of November 1566, Mary and leading nobles held a meeting to discuss the problem of Darnley. Divorce was discussed, but a bond was sworn between the lords present to remove Darnley by other means. So on the night of the 9th and 10th of February in 1567, Mary visited her husband in the early evening and then attended the wedding celebrations of a member of her household. In the early hours of the morning, an explosion devastated Kirklefield, where Darnley was staying, and Darnley was found dead in the garden, apparently smothered. There were no visible marks of strangulation or violence on the body at all. Bothwell, Murray, Secretary Mayland, and the Earl of Morton and Mary herself were among those who came under suspicion. So Elizabeth wrote to Mary of the rumours. But by the end of February, Bothwell was generally believed to be guilty of Darnley's assassination. And Lennox, Darnley's father, demanded that Bothwell be tried before the Estates of Parliament, to which Mary agreed. But Lennox's request for a delay to gather evidence was denied. So in the absence of Lennox and with no evidence presented, Bothwell was acquitted after a 7-hour trial. So between the 21st and 23rd of April in 1567, Mary visited her son at Stirling for the last time on her way back to Edinburgh on the 24th. Mary was then abducted by Lord Bothwell and his men, taken to Dunbar Castle. On the 6th of May, Mary and Bothwell returned to Edinburgh, and on the 15th at Holyrood Palace, they were married according to Protestant rites. Bothwell and his first wife, Jean Gordon, had actually only been divorced 10 days previously. So the marriage was somewhat tempestuous. 26 Scottish peers, known as the Confederate Lords, turned against Mary and Bothwell and raised their own army. Mary and Bothwell confronted the Lords at Carberry Hill on the 15th of June, but there was no battle as Mary's forces mostly deserted during the negotiations. Bothwell was given safe passage from the field. The Lords took Mary to Edinburgh, where crowds of spectators denounced her as an adulteress and a murderer, and the following night she was imprisoned in Lochleven Castle on an island in the middle of Lochleven. Between the 20th and 23rd of July, Mary miscarried twins. On the 24th of July, she was forced to abdicate in favour of her 1-year-old son, James. Bothwell was driven into exile. He was imprisoned in Denmark, became insane, and died in 1578. On the 11th of August, in 1586, after being implicated in the Baddington plot, Mary was arrested while out riding. In a successful attempt to entrap her, Walsingham had deliberately arranged for Mary's letters to be smuggled out of Charlie. And Mary, misled into thinking her letters were secure, while in reality they were deciphered and read by Walsingham. And from these letters, it was clear that Mary had sanctioned the attempted assassination of Queen Elizabeth. In October, she was put on trial for treason before a court of 36 noblemen. She protested that she had been denied the opportunity to review the evidence and that her papers had been removed from her, and that she was denied access to legal counsel. And that as a foreign anointed queen, of course, she never had been an English subject and thus could not be convicted of treason. So she was convicted on the 25th of October and sentenced to death. Elizabeth asked Paulet, Mary's final custodian, if he would contrive a clandestine way to shorten the life of Mary, which she refused to do. So on the 1st of February 1587, Elizabeth signed the death warrant, and on the 3rd of February, 10 members of the Privy Council of England decided to carry out the sentence at once. So at Fotheringay on the evening of the 7th of February, Mary was told she was to be executed the next morning. She spent the last hours of her life in prayer, and the scaffold that was erected in the Great Hall was draped in black cloth. The executioner, Bull, and his assistant knelt before her and asked for forgiveness, as it was typical of the executioner to request pardon of one of being put to death. She was blindfolded in a white veil embroidered in gold, and she knelt down the cushion in front of the block on which she positioned her head and stretched out her arms. Her last words were, "In manus tuas Domine commendo spiritum meum," or "Into the hands of the Lord I commend my spirit." Her lips stirred after her head was cut off, and a small dog, owned by the Queen, emerged from hiding under her skirts. Contemporary accounts state that all her clothing, the block, and everything that touched with blood was burnt to obstruct relic hunters. And there we have an incredible story of our Mary, Queen of Scots, who is an extraordinary character, a short life, with many husbands. There was murder, there was mayhem, there was plotting. It was all there.
Wow, I was getting chills when you were reading that, just thinking about her, just knowing her last few moments, and then her dog is there underneath her skirt. That's amazing.
And you think you get to controversial and scandalous moments in our royal family. Goodness, nothing compared to that. Have I got time to do a quick on this day?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Well, yes, if I can find it. It's I've got all these things scrolled down here. So right, there we go. So on this day in 1848, James Marshall finds gold in the Sutter's Mill in California, which started the Californian Gold Rush. In 1935, the first beer in a can came from an American Kruger Brewing Company called Kruger's Cream Ale. For birthdays today, 1941 was born Neil Diamond, famous singer and songwriter. He's 83 today. Happy birthday, Neil. And for deaths, well, in 1965, Sir Winston Churchill died of a stroke at the age of 90, who, of course, was an amazing leader for the United Kingdom during the Second World War, and had been our Prime Minister two or three times as well. So that's on this day.
Thank you very much. Yay! I wasn't aware of that. Woo! Another fantastic episode. So much education that you both shared today. I really do appreciate you. We have to say goodbye because our next show is coming up, Global Social Entrepreneurs with Anne Scotland. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody back here next week. Anything you want to add, Helena, before we close out? Again, congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much. I'm going to find out more about this award because it was all very last minute just before I came on air. But No, I'm just going to add to what Simon was saying that I want to talk about Lulu. Lulu, who is a great singer, she is celebrating 50 years of her singing career. I think she's 75. Is it 50 years or 70? I don't know if it's even 60 years. I think 50 years. And she will have her last concert that's coming up, which is something to do with it, something like Celebrate Champagne or something like that. But all really great. But because she's Scottish and because she's such a big part of our lives here in Great Britain, I thought I would like to say, hey, and something that she always says is, she was too frightened to dab her feet into becoming an actress. And she now realizes that she wants to sort of pursue that kind of side of things. But if Lulu feels like that, goodness me. So that's something to carry on speaking about next week, I think.
And carry on we shall. Thank you.
6 decades she's been in the industry. And she
60
actually looks younger today than she did when she started out.
I know.
So she's found the way to wind the clock back, I think. But a good Glasgow lass. It was maybe leaving Glasgow that actually made her feel younger in the end. I don't know.
I think so. And that's where she starts off her new Champagne for Lulu, her finale. So it should be great. Her farewell tour. Great, isn't it?
It is great. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Another great show.
Another great episode. And hello to our friend Ian Pelham Turner. We are always glad to hear from you. All right, we're going to close out. I'm not sure what's going to happen, so let's roll credits. Bye for now, everyone. Bye.
Bye.